IVM.
Folks, welcome to Credit Smart with Sibyl. I'm your host Anupam Gupta, host of the Paisa Vaisa podcast. My guest Sujata Elawat, Senior Vice President at TransUnion Sibyl. Sujata, thank you so much for doing this for our listeners.
Thank you for having me back, Anupam. Really looking forward to this important episode of demystifying all the myths around Sibyl.
Totally. I mean, this is something in which even there's so much that I'm going to learn through this because credit score is such a fun topic, and every time in the last 20 years that I've used credit, kuch na kuch naya hote rehta. Some googly comes to me, something or the other is happening. So folks, we're going to bust some of your credit myths. Okay, I'm saying credit myths. Okay, so there's going to be credit score, there's going to be a whole lot of stuff. So let's start. Okay, myth number one, Sujata, do I need a new credit card or a new loan to improve my credit score?
So Anupam, we get this question a lot of times. One, the first thing is you need a credit card and a loan to have a credit score. So a lot of consumers come back to us and say that I have never taken a credit card or a loan. I don't need one. So I'm good. The advice is you need a credit score for not just the next loan, but for a lot of other things as well. Do you need a new credit card or a loan to improve your credit score? The answer is most probably no. The first things that you need to check is whether you are paying back your existing loan on time or not. So let's look at what goes into a credit score. It's making sure you're paying your current installments on time. So as long as you're continuing to servicing your current installments, you should continue to do that. Having said that, I think the way to look at credit products is, do you need them? Definitely, I think as you start looking at your entire journey or, how do you want to improve your lifestyle, if it is a necessity, you should, but make sure that you're not over-leveraging yourself. So 2 golden rules, take loan when you need it the most, make sure you're paying back.
Can't go wrong with that. Basic stuff, folks. Myth number 2, Sujata, my income is related to my CIBIL score. I guess what that means is if I get a salary increase, will my credit score increase? If I lose my job, will my credit score go down? Something like that.
First things first, Anupam, credit score does not get impacted because of your income. What is important to see here is making sure that you are not over-leveraging yourself, and that's where income comes into play. So even if you have a lower income, as long as you're not over-leveraging yourself, you're making sure that you're not defaulting, your score will be good. If you have a high income, but you've taken a lot of credit cards, you've taken a lot of loan products where you're finding it difficult to continue paying regularly, missing a payment, that will impact. So your credit score is not dependent on your income, but it's dependent on the debt to income ratio, if I had to call it, how much debt you have and how much income do you have. So that's how they're related.
I think we kind of, on a related note, we spoke about the utilization ratio.
Absolutely.
So folks, you want to just look that up. The third is my favorite one, okay? I change my credit behavior. Will my credit score improve immediately? Like I delayed my previous credit card payment, but guess what? I completely changed my behavior, and then the next month I paid on time. Why is my credit card score not improved? So does it take time, or how does this work?
So all good things, credit score takes time to build. I think it requires diligence. It does require regular repayment. Having said that, I've mentioned it earlier. If you've gone wrong once, you can come back. So regular payments, it takes about 4 to 12 months, depending on how adverse your, I would say, actions were. It doesn't change immediately, but regular payments, making sure you're credit conscious, making sure you're doing the right kind of actions that we've spoken about earlier. Anytime between 4 to 12 months, you'll see a good change in your credit score.
Sounds like my fitness plan, right? I mean, like saying that for one weekend, I didn't have any mithai or anything. Mera to weight kam hona chahiye. I think it's more about building a discipline over a long period of time. That impacts your credit score more than anything else, right?
Absolutely. Very well said, Anupam. In fact, like your fitness plan, if you go back, you'll take that much time to go forward as well. So,
yeah, folks, and it gets tougher as you age, by the way. Let me tell you that. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. Ek bar credit card missed payment. I mean, I missed paying my credit card dues just once only. Obviously, that will not change my credit profile, right?
Unfortunately, even a small missed payment can impact. What is important also is if you're missing that payment and if you tend to forget about it, interest keeps ballooning up. So even a small payment will impact your credit score. I think that's why it's very, very important to check all the terms and conditions as you're getting into new credit cards. What are the outstandings? A small payment which you might think is small today, if you forget tomorrow, there will be interest charges and it will keep ballooning up. So even a small miss will impact.
Yeah, this is so important, right? Because all of us think that when we miss that first credit card payment, एक बार कर दिया चलो ठीक है next month में कर लेंगे. In my experience, it doesn't work like that. In fact, a lot of people fall into the spiral that way. It becomes a habit, and that can really mess up your credit score.
Absolutely. I think, we've spoken about minimum balances, right? You said, okay, let me just pay the minimum balance now and I'll kind of take care of it in the next month. That becomes difficult. And, like I said, it requires the right kind of behavior. It requires diligence to make sure that you are on top of your credit.
Yeah. Okay. Another of my favorites. I need to apply to as many credit cards as I can because the more credit cards I have, the better my credit score is. Is this a myth? I mean, how does this work?
So I think credit cards are hot favorites with everybody, right? I think with the kind of rewards, you do get tempted to, offer to as many cards, take as many cards in your wallet as possible. I would say it's a myth. What is important is not just the number of cards that you have, but the amount that you're using. Like I said earlier, more the number of cards, the more risk you are holding in terms of your behavior. I mean, if you different due dates, if you forget to make a payment, if you start overutilizing yourself, that's going to impact. So it's not just the number of cards that you have in your wallet that matter, but how are you performing on cards as well? So, if I had to just tell you about how a score works, if you're using a card that shows that, yes, you need credit. If you're paying back your outstanding, it shows that you are actually showing a good credit behavior as well. So it's not just the number of cards in your wallet that matter, but how you're using them, how you're paying them, what are the kind of diligence that you're showing. So definitely the numbers alone don't matter. How you are servicing them is extremely important.
Yeah, one of my favorites, I was talking to a friend and he said he's got a credit card that's dedicated to making utility payments and other for fuel and other for X and other for Y, other for Z. He forgot about one card. And we all know what happened next. And then he came to me saying that what happened to my credit card. I was like, listen, dekh le yaar, matlab, how many credit cards you got. It doesn't. So he might actually be earning a large amount. But if you miss on your payment, then your credit score is going to get impacted.
Absolutely. I think, but there's an opportunity to make the best of both worlds. Set auto reminders, make sure you're using 2 to 3 cards, make sure you are on top of your due dates. If you can do that, definitely, I think you can leverage the best parts of both the worlds.
We live in a technology-friendly world. You can, use your mobile, set reminders or do stuff like that. Okay, last one, and this is actually a big one, Sujata. Prepaying my loan will have absolutely no impact on my credit score. I think I've actually spoken to a couple of people, who've had auto loans or two-wheeler loans, and they've actually prepaid the loans. 5 years, they've done it in some 4.5, and they were expecting that my credit score should improve because, hey, prepayment is actually good behavior, right? But how does this work?
So, Anupam, let's look at what prepayment is, right? You're paying the entire outstanding, which means that, you have kind of serviced the loan at that point in time. So while it will help you improve your score immediately, but let's look at what a score takes into account. It looks into your future and regular repayment history. So prepayment might be a good option when you're looking to take another product in future, another loan in future as well. But as you start looking at prepayment, on a long-term basis, credit score looks into, are you paying back on time? So if it's a very old loan which is closed, and I spoke about it, not having credit also does not lead to a credit score. So as long as you're not over-leveraging yourself, prepayment, if you have an option, definitely it improves the score at that point in time. But what is important is one of the things that's also taken into account is debt-to-income ratio, like I mentioned earlier. So definitely, depending on the number of products that you have, the right mix of secured and unsecured products. So if you're prepaying a loan, I'm sure you would have other credit products that you can display or use to show your credit worthiness as well. So, having the right kind of active and closed loans become very, very important to build a high credit score.
Fantastic, folks. As you can see, we're not just busting myths. We're giving you very good pointers and tips on how to maintain a healthy credit discipline. And that's it. That's a wrap on this episode of Credit Smart with Sibyl. My guest, Sujata Ahlawat, Senior Vice President, TransUnion Sibyl. Sujata, thank you so much for doing this for our listeners.
My pleasure.